What do you say, everybody? Welcome to the Bama Insider YouTube channel. It's time for Monday Night Quarterback. We're coming to you from the Bama Insider South studio here in Fairhope, right outside of Mobile, where the Senior Bowl is taking place. We're going to talk about the Senior Bowl on our show tonight. But before we get into anything else, let me ask you to do a couple of things, and that is first, yell at your television right now, Roll Tide. No, just kidding. Like and subscribe. Hit the thumbs up. That is the best way to say you enjoy the shows that we put on the air for you. Like, subscribe, hit the thumbs up. We really appreciate you being here. Also, our show, Monday Night Quarterback on Bama Insider, every Monday night, is brought to you by these guys, Westgate Luxury Condominiums, right there in downtown Tuscaloosa. No, it's not downtown Tuscaloosa. It is right next to Bryant-Denny Stadium. So near campus, near the Walk of Champions, really 200 feet. And they've walked it out, 200 steps to Bryant-Denny. You're near campus, the quad, all the action, including the strip right there at Westgate Luxury Condominiums. 1 to 5 bedroom condos. They're spacious. They have the amazing Sub-Zero kitchens, the oversized balconies, 1 to 5 bedroom units that are 9 to 3,000 square feet. The Skygate Club is where this crew right here that's with you tonight hosted the post-game show. And boy, I'll tell you what, they did a fantastic job of accommodating all of their guests, including us. They do that for every single game day. And when you're there, hey, it's part of your package. So find out for yourself, westgateal.com. That's westgateal.com. All right, so much to talk about. But first, Trey, welcome to the studio. And what's up, man? How was the trip?
It was great. I mean, this is a palace. I've seen it so many times on camera, but coming here and getting to see it, this is Bama Insider South, and I love it. And, I love being in Tuscaloosa for our shows and our coverage and everything else, but just driving in tonight through Mobile, we had the sunset, saw the water. It's beautiful, and, it's going to be a great week. We're here for the Senior Bowl. Excited to cover that. Obviously, everybody getting in the comments talking about Eric Wolford already. Maybe some Bill O'Brien speculation as well. So a lot to cover tonight. But what's up, everybody? Excited to be here, man. This is quite the studio you got.
Well, thanks. And you're right. There's a lot to talk about the Senior Bowl. You talk about all the new coaches, who's coming, who might be coming, expecting an announcement any minute that Bill O'Brien is going to the Pats. But before we get into that, how about the Super Bowl, man? I mean, this is going to be a really interesting matchup. A lot of former SEC guys there. Joe Burrow and Lamar Chase. We saw them in 2019 with LSU, and they've led the Bengals to the big game.
I mean, just the fact that the Cincinnati Bengals, a team that was last place in their division last year, won 5 games, had the number 5 pick in the draft, was able to get to the Super Bowl this season, getting through Patrick Mahomes, didn't have to play Josh Allen, obviously, but the fact that this team is here, I'm a big Pittsburgh Pirates fan, as you guys know. If the Cincinnati Bengals can get there, Pittsburgh Pirates should be able to make a World Series here soon. So I think the Cincinnati Bengals in general, just one of those fun sports stories that it's so easy to get around. You get behind this time of the year, and you look at Joe Burrow, you look at Jamar Chase. These guys are still so young. It's crazy to think about what's to come for this team. Just such a fun team to follow. And on the other side, I mean, the Rams too. They've had their ups and downs. Love Matthew Stafford out there.
Georgia,
yep, another SEC guy. So just really loaded all over. Mecole Hardman having to lose in that semifinal round, but it's just been a loaded playoffs as far as SEC guys go, Bama guys go in general. And it's been such an incredible playoff so far too. So a little bit of football to tie you guys over. Now I know basketball season's kind of getting into the thick here, and Bama getting a big win this weekend. But this football has been really, really fun to watch. It's kind of gone down the stretch here.
Look, I would love to sit here and tell you that I didn't see the Bengals going to the Super Bowl. But if you follow me on Twitter at Broadcaster Mick, I was really close to nailing both games yesterday. I put on there, look, I was taking the Bengals. You got +7 if you wanted it, but the money line was 335. Minus 335. That's a great odds there. They were a huge underdog. And then LA 3.5 over San Francisco is what I took. And it was 3. I don't know how they do that in Vegas, right?
It's crazy. And the overs this weekend, too. I mean, the first game was half a point. I think the second game was within 3 or 4 points. It's mind-numbing what Vegas is able to do. But overall,
so good.
Glad you hit on the Bengals bet there. I would have loved those odds.
The last 2 weeks have been the best NFL football I can ever remember. And with you guys being down here, it's the beginning of the NFL draft. So we'll get into that coming up. But I thought just a fantastic playoff run so far. I've enjoyed every game, and my bets have been right down the middle. I've won and lost, but I feel like yesterday, that 49ers, I knew it was going to be a tough game. I thought the Rams were going to win, and 3.5 Vegas is just so hard to beat. I mean, it's incredible what they're able to do.
Oh, yeah.
All right, well, let's talk about this guy right here. Let me throw him on the screen, guys. Bill O'Brien is soon going to be announced as the offensive coordinator for Bill Belichick and the Patriots. This is what so many Bama fans wanted, right? It's not official yet, but that's what our sources are telling us is coming. Expect it to happen really soon.
I think it makes all the sense in the world. Josh McDaniels goes out to Las Vegas to become the head coach of the Raiders. And, Bill O'Brien kind of fits into that mentality that Bill Belichick likes. And I already see BJS getting down here. I knew we would have the comments come right away. Grab a hot dog on the way out. I think Bill O'Brien at times this year caught some criticism that wasn't necessary. I mean, this dude's offense had 338 passing yards a game, 150 on the ground a game, scoring nearly 40 points a game. I mean, this offense had the Heisman winner. They had a Biletnikoff finalist. He really managed this team, I think, as well as he could have at times with the limited running back room he had. I think if Jace McClellan plays, I know you're a huge Jace McClellan guy.
I am.
I think he's healthy. We look at Bill O'Brien a little bit differently because I think he would have used that running back room a little bit more. For as far as his next job with the Patriots, I love this. He gets to go be with Mac Jones, an Alabama guy, Damian Harris too. And like I said, I think it just fits so well. For Bama fans, I know everybody's excited and, really excited to see who's next and kind of talk about some of these potential guys. But, congratulations to Bill O'Brien. If this does become official, I think it's a perfect fit. And it just, it shows the system. 1 year of rehab if you're an NFL head coach. That's all you need at Alabama. Get right back into the league. And that man right there, Nick Saban, the rehabilitator of many careers, doing it again here with Bill O'Brien.
Right, and we're going to talk about Doug Marrone, who left for the Broncos. But let's just talk a little Saban, a little offensive coordinator. This is something that we are seeing over and over and over again, and that's that Alabama staff is going to be rebuilt at the end of a championship season. This was a championship season. They won the SEC. They almost won the national championship. And we have been on our chat room and if you go to the Bama Insider chat room on the site as well, we've been pretty hard on Bill O'Brien. But when you look back at it and the fact that, Brian Robinson, who's down here in Mobile for the Senior Bowl, he's not, He's a good running back, maybe the ninth best I saw on Mel Kiper's board in this draft. So he's going to end up with an NFL team to draft him most likely. He'll be on a roster, right?
Oh, for sure.
But when you talk about McClellan going down and Roydell Williams going down and, who knows where Kamar Wheaton is? I mean, like all these questions, then all the receivers that went down, and you see that this offense produced a Heisman Trophy winner, got to the national championship game, and because of bad luck, didn't win it, but got pretty darn close. I think Bill O'Brien did a good job. Now Nick Saban's got to replace him, and this is fun. Who's going to be the next guy?
Right. There's a few names that come to mind, and I think ultimately, maybe a guy like Joe Brady makes the most sense at this point. That's
who I was going to say.
Yeah, that's kind of been my pick even before he was let go up there in New York. I think he's a really team-oriented guy. And he's open right now. So that means a lot for Nick Saban to be able to go get a guy.
And hold it right there, too. The fact that he hasn't taken another job yet.
Exactly.
That's kind of out there floating around as well.
Exactly.
What's he doing?
Yeah. I mean, I think it just makes so much sense. And the thing I love about Joe Brady, we saw it from the jump in Manhattan, or I guess on the other side of the bay there in New Jersey. He's a very player-oriented coach. I mean, this guy, is getting in the huddles, dancing with the team at training camp. We saw right in the jump there. And, I think he just kind of gets it. And for Bill O'Brien, I kind of saw the same things. For as poor as he was scheme-wise this year, maybe sometimes he should have ran the ball more in goal line situations or had a little bit of a better scheme in the red zone. He was an excellent player coach. I mean, Bryce Young hadn't started a college football game coming into this season. We didn't really know we were going to get there. I think he fueled his confidence, kind of helped reaffirm that belief that you're this good. You were a 5-star. You were the number one quarterback prospect in the country, if you look at certain sites. So I think we're kind of going to get a lot of the same mentality-wise. And you look at a guy like Jamison Williams, too, another first-year player coming in and having so much success. I think Joe Brady is the kind of guy that comes in and potentially maybe stays for just a year like Bill O'Brien, but is going to have that same feel about it. I'm seeing Go Hawks here. Got Joe Burr 60 touchdowns.
He did.
That LSU offense was just so deadly. I mean, you look at all the tools he had. That really makes you feel confident because Alabama is going to be very loaded next year on offense, just the same as that LSU team was. At offensive line, I absolutely love this hire in Eric Wolford, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. But I think Joe Brady, with the way things are lining up, is going to have so many talented minds around him, the Holman Wiggins of the world, and potentially, guys like Eric Wolford coming in and making an instant impact as well. I would love this hire. I don't know if this is going to be realistic because I've heard he really wants to stay in the NFL. But, maybe Joe Judge is another idea. If not Joe Brady, get another Joe in here. But overall, I mean, if Alabama is able to pull this off, I think this would be the ideal pick for offensive coordinator after Bill O'Brien.
What about Dan Mullen? I saw that Jarvis put Dan Mullen on there. That's a good pick.
I like it.
I've always said this about our viewers, that they know what's going on, that these guys are with it, and that, someone on here is going to name the person that Alabama is going to end up with, right?
Oh, my goodness. Yeah. I mean, our fans, our viewers, callers, throughout the season have such great insight. And, I think a lot of you guys get in here and do your research just the same as we do. And that's what's so fun about kind of the speculation. We can all kind of come up with our own candidates or, our own ideas of who it should be. And I think Dan Mullen, at the end of that, I see Jackie Wyken in there kind of with the arms up emoji. I'm with you there. I don't think this is a bad hire by any means. After, what we saw at Florida, I think he kind of confused that offense a little bit, which worries me. But
right.
Why that offense didn't work? They had two quarterbacks. They didn't decide between Anthony Richardson.
Well, the work to get
Jones.
to the SEC championship game in 2020, and they were one of the best teams in the country.
No doubt. And coming into this season, where they ranked number 4 in the country, undefeated going into that Alabama game. I mean, I personally, I think that Florida made this move well too soon. Dan Mullen is a Florida guy. He's an excellent recruiter. Struggled these last 2 seasons a little bit more than I expected, in recruiting and on the field as well, this past season. But I just think this was a really good fit for Florida. Brilliant offensive mind. And I think, he's probably a 1-year, maybe 2-year kind of guy as well. I think anybody you hire probably has that mentality, but I could see this just the same. It was Jarvis or whoever threw it in there. I love that idea. But ultimately, I think maybe Dan Mullen, Joe Brady, Joe Judge are your main candidates. At this point.
Judge just fired by the Giants in the NFL. And we'll find out, and, we'll kind of see what happens. Now, let's talk about a guy that has definitely already taken another job and a guy that's been hired by Alabama. But first, guys, like and subscribe as you hang out with us here on Monday Night Quarterback. We're on the Bama Insider YouTube channel. He's Trey Yanity, and I'm Mick Gillispie, and we really appreciate all you guys hanging out with us. Love the super chats as well as you guys kick it with us here on Monday night. We're down here doing the Senior Bowl thing. Well, I live here, and Chris is from here, and Trey's here for the first time. But we're going to have coverage all week as this is the beginning of the NFL draft. It starts right down here in the port city of Alabama. All right. Doug Marrone, we knew when he was hired, he was fired by the Jaguars as their head coach, that it was going to be a 1-year stay. His best friend, Bill O'Brien, they reunite to get an SEC title ring, almost a championship, if Alabama beats Georgia. He takes the job in Denver. He's out, and we replace him with Kentucky's offensive line coach, Eric Wolford.
Yeah, I love this hire, Mick. And this is a guy that's really just been around the league. He's coached at South Carolina for the longer part of his career than anywhere else, but he's had NFL experiences as well. He was a head coach for a little bit at Youngstown State, played in the NFL, and just gets the offensive line. I mean, you go down the list here. Was at South Florida, advanced to Houston, advanced to North Texas, Arizona, Illinois, South Carolina, got to the Niners for a season. And, of course, at Kentucky just for 1 year.
Right.
Love that he was, in the SEC following the NFL and has kind of readjusted to college. This is, still somewhat of a younger coach. And I think a guy that, is really just perfect for the college level. It's not to say he won't be in the NFL again at some point, but he really gets the college player. I think Doug Marrone was great, because he's very organized and he kind of was able to develop these guys that maybe a college dude couldn't come in and do. He knows the NFL system and everything else, but Eric Wolford has just been around the block. As a head coach, it didn't really work out. And sometimes I think, being specialized, controlling a position group is the best fit. We've seen Pete Golding, we were talking about it today on the way over. He's really only coached linebackers his entire career. And I don't know if it's the worst thing in the world if that doesn't change, because he's so excellent at developing the middle linebacker and, linebackers in general. So love this hire. I'm excited to kind of see, what this group's energy looks like next year, because it's going to be a young group yet again. They're going to have to figure some things out. And, for as much improvement as we saw down the stretch, I think there was still some area to grow with this group, throughout the season. So maybe Eric Wolford is the spark this group needs. But I love this hire. I really do. When
you think Kentucky football, you think offensive line, right? I mean, that's kind of where they've made their beef in the league, under Mike Stoops, who's done a nice job. It's Mark Stoops.
Mark Stoops.
Mark.
Yeah.
There's so many Stoops, out there, right? Mark Stoops, who's done a great job as their coach. They won their bowl game this year over Iowa. They had a great season. They ended up second in the East.
Yeah.
They were ranked in the top 10 for a little while, and where they have kind of separated themselves is that they are an offensive line school. So for Nick Saban, not only does it weaken one of the teams in your conference, but you also go to a place where they've kind of made their name on the offensive line, and you get a guy who knows how to recruit, which is something. Another younger coach. Kind of feels like Nick Saban with these coaching moves is trying to get a little bit younger. and just by that picture there, he looks awful intense.
Oh, he is very intense. And like Jarvis is saying here, he's going to bring that aggression and that consistency that we didn't see at times this year. You look at that Kentucky unit, a unit that won the Joe Moore Award for the best offensive line unit in the country. That alone tells you everything you need to know, but watch them play. I mean, these dudes are moving bodies. This is an aggressive unit. That takes personnel at the same time, and Kentucky recruited their offensive line incredibly well. But think about it. This guy was there for one season. To win that award for being there for 1 year, it speaks volumes to what he's able to do with that group. Really excited to see, what this offensive line looks like, because I think, at times this season when Alabama struggled, you point to them. You look at that Texas A&M game. You look at LSU. Even Tennessee to an extent. The offensive line struggled in those games. And maybe it was because of Chris Owens. Right. Maybe it was because of, Kendall Randolph at times, some inconsistency. And maybe we get that consistency as far as playing time and starts go under Eric Wolford. Hopefully that's the case because, like Jarvis is saying, I think once we get the consistency, they're going to bring the aggression under Wolford. And, hopefully that's the right combo. Ultimately, you have Bryce Young who creates a lot of time. But, I think Wolford could get the line to give him even a little bit more there.
I think that when you look at where Alabama was at this point last year, coming off of a national championship, losing all of those players to the NFL draft, star players, explosive players, right? Najee, explosive. He was incredible in the NFL. Alabama didn't have a Najee Harris this year, right?
They didn't.
They had two receivers this year that were better than Jamison Williams, who was their best receiver this year. Last year, right, they had two guys that were better, and that's nothing against him, right? But Waddle was hurt for most of the year, and Smitty was the Heisman Trophy winner, right?
Yeah.
So, but not a huge downgrade, but a downgrade nonetheless,
sure,
right?
Yeah.
And you go and you get two NFL coaches, and this team, I think, overachieved. I really do.
No, I'm right there with you. I mean, I didn't expect this team, and looking at the schedule, a lot of people disagreed with me. I didn't think this schedule was uber challenging this season as far as the regular season goes. I mean, Auburn could have been better this year, which would have made the end of the schedule a lot more difficult. But that Ole Miss, Texas A&M stretch was the hardest it got. And, you feel pretty confident if Alabama played those teams 10 times, they'd probably win 8, 9 of those games against each of them.
Yeah.
Maybe 10 against Ole Miss. But, this upcoming schedule is really different. It's going to be a little bit more challenging, but this team is just going to be so much better. And the night of the national title, we got on and in the comments, it was a lot of Alabama fans. It was Georgia fans, people from all over. That's just the nature of the national title. And, right away you hear people getting in there saying, wait on next year. And I think that's the the age-old, excuse for why this team didn't succeed. Well, this was a rebuilding year or whatever. That's legitimately what this was for Alabama. I mean, you had a first-year starter at quarterback, first-year starter at running back. Look at your receiving core, 3 first-year starters. Your offensive line loses their 2 best starters. You look on defense too, and you're having to turn to a youngster in Kool-Aid McKinstry, and then, you lose your depth at outside linebacker, and you have to go to the Dallas Turners of the world. This was a young team, and not just that, but they had to play their young guys. Next year, with that 2021 recruiting class, I just don't see this team, finding anything except for the ultimate amount of success, because that was the greatest recruiting class of all time, and we just got a taste of it last year.
Yeah, right.
The Dallas Turners of the world.
They're going to be very hungry, I think, as well. And I don't think that the coaching that they needed this year is going to be the same that they needed last year. That was my point. They got a lot of guys that were super vets. And now I feel like they're going to kind of stick with the college coaches, and we see that with the hire of Eric Wolford. All right, so we get a new offensive line coach. Everyone is down here in Mobile for the Senior Bowl. Guys, like and subscribe as you hang out with us. Hit the thumbs up. We really appreciate you on a Monday night quarterback show talking Alabama. Trey Yanity, I'm Mick Gillispie. All right, let's talk Senior Bowl. Brian Robinson finally leaving Alabama after a 20-year career, and Phil Mathis, right, a running back and a defensive line pass, stopper and a run stopper, 2 guys that really did contribute to Alabama. Brian Robinson, obviously, workhorse running back. Mel Kiper has Brian Robinson as the 9th best senior, or the 9th best running back in the draft, I think is what I saw. And then Phil Mathis, they're saying, maybe 3rd, 4th round for him. Yeah,
I think for Brian Robinson, I think that's about fair. For Phil Mathis, I mean, this is a guy that I think late 2nd round is probably the most fair pick for him. I've seen the 3rd round, the 4th round, and I just don't think that's a fair shake. I mean, this dude is so dang athletic. You remember the box jump video and, everything else this season, and just like you said, the pass breakups and some of the stuff that he does is just so athletic and kind of uncharacteristic for a dude that big that plays on the defensive line. So, hopefully he will get, justice served here, and maybe he could go late 1st round, even early 2nd round. But, for Phil Mathis, I think there's definitely a higher ceiling. I think, the 9th overall running back is about fair for Brian Robinson. We saw him turn it on in that Cincinnati game, especially. And, when he was used correctly, I think, he's exactly what we thought he was going to be. I mean, this dude was a back that got better as the game went on. He was going to give you that bull rush attack. He wasn't going to beat you with his lateral speed or, his cutting abilities, but he was what he was this season. And I think that kind of translates to the NFL for some of these teams. You need that bull back. A lot of running backs now have that ability with the Derrick Henry leaping abilities and the stiff arms and everything else. But, kind of excited to see how this shakes out there. Overall, these 2 guys, are going to have the spotlight this week. And like you said, this is kind of the 1st round of the NFL draft here, this Senior Bowl. But overall, I hope these guys just enjoy this, because that's something I've never had the chance to cover this event. But that's something I've noticed about this event. It's almost like the Pro Bowl. I mean, you're getting to play with dudes that, you had rivalries with throughout college and everything else. And you're being around all the coaches, just kind of living it up as they close out their college career.
Yeah, no doubt. I'm 2 guys who we've talked about a lot because they've been on the Alabama team for a long time. Brian Robinson, I can't say enough good about. He doesn't have a crazy talent that a lot of the guys that preceded him have.
Yeah.
And I've said this all year, and it's not a knock against him. It's just how good that running back room has been. It was hard for him to get on the field, period. And then this year, because of injuries and the fact that he got the extra year, he comes out and it wasn't always pretty, but the effort was always fantastic. And with the right team in the NFL, maybe he's one of these guys that sticks around for a while, like maybe he's a short yardage back or someone that never fumbles. He did a lot of things really well this season, and I hope the best for him.
I do too. And like you said, I mean, it's just about getting the right team. I think for Najee Harris, we heard Steelers kind of leading up to that. I thought that was going to be a perfect fit, and it was. Some of these backs go number 1, 2, not one typically, but you see a back go in the top 5 or in the top 10, or even in the top 15. And nowadays, backs are getting taken much later than they were. But, if you get drafted to a team that has a high pick, they're probably not going to have a very good offensive line. You're not going to get those holes, and you're going to have dudes that, are paid to kill you running at you up the middle. So,
Right.
I think if he goes to a team with a really solid offensive line and maybe a team that already has some depth at running back, he could kind of work his way into a backup role or, a third down role or something like that and just kind of make a living. I mean, that's kind of been Brian Robinson. He's not going to blow you away with the hurdles like we saw with Najee Harris. He's not going to kill you with the speed like we saw with Josh Jacobs, but he's going to bring you that consistency. And I think if you have the right offensive line, maybe if you had Landon Dickerson this year, if we had Christian Barmore for another season, he could have been, had a season that numbers wise looked like Najee Harris's, or numbers wise, looked like the Damian Harris's of the world. He just didn't have that same kind of team. I'm seeing Seahawks here in the comments section. Wouldn't hate that at all. Their running back room's been weird. I like Chris Carson, but I think Brian Robinson could come in and maybe get a chance earlier with a team like that. And, such a fluid offense, that wouldn't be the worst thing in the world at all for a guy like this. Overall, I just hope these guys are able to show out and really prove what they have. Because like you said, Brian Robinson didn't get his chance until this year. And, we saw it in the comments, we talk about it a lot. Maybe if he had been given the ball in some of those goal line situations or, in close when they should have ran the ball, he would have the stats to kind of back up a second round or third round pick. But, overall, you can make that up right here. And I hope he does this week.
Yeah, no doubt. Phil Mathis, 6'4", 315 pounds, 46 tackles and 10 tackles for loss, 8 sacks. Good luck to both of these guys as they move on to the NFL. And this doesn't also include the underclassmen that are going and all that. And you guys know that. But this is just the Senior Bowl down here in Mobile. And Chris Daltrey and Trey are covering that. So before we talk some basketball, what can we expect from the tandem of Trey and Chris down here in the Gulf? What we call down here L.A. Lower Alabama.
I've heard about LA.
You know about LA. You're in LA right now.
Yeah, I know it. I'm excited to be here in LA, the greater LA area. But it's going to be a full week. And what I love about this event, from what I've seen in the past, because like I said, this is my first time down here, but it's just so much more free range. It's very relaxed. The national championship has happened. All the high stakes games have already taken place. So everybody's just kind of taking a breath out. It's January now. It's late January, going into February this week. So it's it's really a time to, I think, everybody just kind of get together. Coverage-wise, we're going to hopefully be able to get you guys interviews every day. We've looked at the schedule. We don't know access, wise exactly what they're going to give us, but we're going to have as much content as we can. I think we're allowed 2 minutes of practice highlights every day. So we'll get that stuff up on the YouTube page, and, anything else we can get. We're going to try to do as many interviews as we can with these guys if we can get that access, and, just capture this thing as best as we can, because it's a really special opportunity for these two.
Awesome. Looking forward to seeing what you guys come up with down here at the Senior Bowl, and it'll take place Saturday in Mobile, and Nick Saban's floating around, and all the coaches are floating around, and the NFL's around. So going to be a lot of fun as we see things start to progress towards the draft. All right, before we switch gears, guys, and I know that this is the part of the show where people are like, hey, it's Monday Night Quarterback, but you're talking basketball. We got to talk basketball. We got a lot going on with hoops. They just beat the defending champs, right? So we got to talk about that. But first, like and subscribe as you hang out with us here on the Bama Insider YouTube channel. We really appreciate you being here. Monday Night Quarterback is brought to you by Westgate Luxury Condominiums, right there next to Bryant-Denny Stadium. All right, let's talk hoops. Huge win on Saturday. So now Alabama's beaten 3 of the 4 Final Four teams from last year. They beat Gonzaga. They beat Houston. And they beat Baylor. And they beat Gonzaga. I guess it's Gonzaga. I got to get the A right. Yeah. They beat Gonzaga on the road. So Saturday, Coleman Coliseum was rocking. It was a whiteout. Were you there? Were you wearing white? Were you guys there?
I was not there. No? I wanted to let the fans get in there. We had to get the post game, so we were full and on the coverage, making sure you guys got to see it all on our end. But what a win! And the fact that this team has now gone 6-5 against schools that are not ranked, but they're 7-2 against ranked opponents this year.
I know.
Just makes you scratch your head and coming into this matchup, I said it last week on Twitter. I guess I might have said it on here too. I hope I did. But, I really, really like this matchup for Alabama. I really like the Gonzaga matchup for Alabama and the Houston matchup for Alabama because, what do these teams all have in common? They have really good bigs. They're going to try to beat you in the post. They're going to try to beat you down low. They're not going to, spread the perimeter as much as a team like Missouri or Georgia or, some of these schools that Alabama have lost to that are kind of embarrassing losses. Baylor, is an unbelievable win. But I think that Alabama could make a run in the tournament against teams like this because, deep in the tournament, you see teams with good bigs kind of emerge. And, when Alabama is able to play Charles Bediako as a true 5, not stretch him to the 4, not make him guard the perimeter at all, it's had a lot of success. When you can work in Juwan Gary and Noah Gurley and play these guys as true big men against true big men, you get your best on best. And Alabama was able to get the rebounds in this game, hit the free throws, knock down the clutch threes where they could. And, I think the crowd had a lot to do with it too. Crazy atmosphere from what I've heard. But, just another historic win for Nate Oates. And hopefully this is what it takes to kind of, quiet some of the naysayers as we get into February now.
I feel like with this team, Trey, that they're good, they're not great. And I think that's why when they don't bring the type of effort that they have to win, that they brought from the tip against Baylor, they lose. They lose to teams that stink like Georgia and like Missouri. What an embarrassing loss. And then they almost lost to them again. I mean, I know they won the game, but they played horribly bad in the first half. Alabama isn't good enough in basketball this year not to bring the A effort. With that said, when they bring the A effort, they can beat anybody.
It's there. I mean, this Baylor team was allowing somewhere around 54, 55 points a game. Alabama scored, 82 in this game? I mean, Alabama's offense, I've said it time and time again, I don't worry about the offense as much because it's so dilated and, it's just so planned out that they're going to get enough open looks to hang in a game, score 60 points at the bare minimum, but it's about the defense. What kind of energy are they bringing on the perimeter? These games that they've lost, Memphis, you're lazy on the perimeter and now the baseline's wide open. Yeah. And, you see guys Jalen Duren's making these cuts and having crazy dunks. And, that turns around the energy in general too. Auburn tomorrow, I guess now is a little bit worrisome to me because they've gotten such good play out of their guards and they've been able to kind of bring that energy outside. If Alabama is able to, kind of beat you with defensive energy down low, they're going to win the game every time. But, if they're not able to bring that energy, like you said, from the jump, get out to a good start guarding the 3, it's almost like they don't really know what to do with themselves. I mean, we've seen that Missouri team twice now take a 15+ point lead on Alabama. They've had to play comeback twice, got one win, thankfully, but they really do have to set the tone in these games. Tomorrow is another opportunity. I think if you win one out of these two, you're a lock. I think this win on Saturday, honestly, almost locks Alabama into the tournament. I mean, you have 5 quad 1 wins, more wins against ranked teams than any team in the country. So
toughest schedule in basketball.
Exactly. And, you have wins even against schools like, South Dakota State, who won their conference last year. They'll probably do that again. Louisiana Tech's on, well on their way to win their conference. And, some of these other schools that you maybe lost to, like Davidson or like Iona, they'll probably go out and win their conference. And those games just battle tested this team. So hopefully, I think, like you said, it does start with energy. Hopefully they bring that energy. I think Auburn's crowd is going to give them, all that they need to bring that energy. But it's going to be another crazy game. This one means a little bit more.
I used to go to Maryland games when Gary Williams was the coach as a kid, and they were and they would play number 1 Duke with Mike Krzyzewski, who's still there, right? Number 1 North Carolina would come in with Dean Smith. Every team in the ACC used to be so good. Yeah, back when Maryland was in the ACC, and you had to camp out for tickets. And right now, Auburn's found that magic. Bruce Pearl just got a lifetime contract. They just. You know what? Now that you're not going to get in trouble for paying players, I mean, to be quite honest with you, why not give the guy a lifetime contract? And, interestingly enough, Auburn is won 17 straight. They're number 1 in the country, and Alabama comes in. I still think Alabama has a chance to win this game if they do one thing, and that's shoot threes and shoot them at a clip that they haven't really shot them at this year. I feel like that's what this team is lacking. If they can get those 3 balls to fall, and we saw Quinterly finally starting to make some shots against Baylor, Shackelford, Davidson hit a 3.
About the kid JD, I mean,
right.
He really showed up.
Yeah, I mean, but they're going to have to do that to win down at Auburn. 17 straight. And Auburn just has found this electricity as their football program melts like a snowman on an 80-degree day.
Yeah.
And we could do a whole show about how bad things are on the football side. The basketball side is really raising the bar for Alabama and Nate Oates to try to jump over, and it's going to be a tough test Tuesday.
It's impeccable what this program has done. My freshman year in 2017, Auburn started out the year as a preseason pick to finish last in the conference.
Yeah.
That season, they climbed into the top 10. They came to Alabama undefeated. Alabama got a big win at home to kind of spoil their season a little bit, beat them in the SEC tournament. They ended up losing to Charleston in the first round of that season's tournament. But the year after that, it was like, well, is Auburn going to be able to do this again? Or was that just kind of a fluke season? They come out and climb into the top 5 yet again. And, I think that was the season they got all the way up to number 2. They were owning the map, one of the last undefeated teams in the country. But Alabama at the same time is, kind of had their number in some of these games. Not so much at Auburn Arena necessarily. And, the fact that Auburn beat that Kentucky team by double digits, a Kentucky team that just went to Kansas and won by 20 points is worrisome. That makes you a little bit afraid. But, like you said, if Alabama shoots the ball well, they're not going to have to worry about this. You look at Davidson, you look at Missouri the first go round, you look at Iona, one of these other big time losses, Memphis even, all of those teams are shooting over 35% from 3. If you let them do that, you're not going to win the game. It's basketball. You can't let a team shoot over 30% from 3. But, if Alabama's shooting somewhere near a 30% clip, and I think can keep Auburn around there too, could easily win this game. Alabama has proved they can beat any team in the country. I mean, they have 3 wins over teams that were in the Final Four last year. I don't know if a program's ever done that.
Yeah.
But, at the same time, they're 6-5 against unranked opponents. So just such a weird team. I don't know what we're going to see tomorrow.
Who's the other team that was in the Final Four that they didn't play?
UCLA, the team
that beat them last year. How about that? And they're not on the schedule, right? Hey, look, a compliment to what the SEC is doing right now in basketball. They won the SEC Big 12 Challenge. There were some really good games. Tennessee just about beat Texas down there in Austin. But this isn't the SEC that we used to see in hoops. These are really good teams, and they can play some basketball. And then you look over at the ACC. They used to be so great in basketball. They hung their hat on it, and they're awful. It's crazy how good the SEC has climbed in basketball in just a short amount of time. And how exciting these games are. Even going back to Alabama and Auburn the first time. Bama didn't win the game, but it was still tied under a minute left, right?
Great game. And, just to kind of expand on that a little bit, it shows you how much a coach means in college basketball, a head coach.
Yeah.
You look at those ACC programs when they were winning, it's because they had the Mike Krzyzewski, the Roy Williams, Jim Boeheim at Syracuse. They had an unbelievable coach at all of these schools.
Yeah.
You start to see these guys retire and, these programs aren't very good anymore. Duke, I think, is going to be just fine, even without Mike Krzyzewski. You look at the SEC now, go around the league, the Buzz Williams, the Bruce Pearls now, Nate Oates. The kids are starting to come because I think ultimately the head coach means more than anything in college basketball, which is why I don't want to get on too much of a side tangent here. It just frustrates me so much when you get on Twitter after the Georgia loss or the Missouri loss, or whatever, fire Nate Oates, get this guy
the
out
rabbit
here.
hole. Don't fall into the rabbit hole.
You can't. I mean, this dude was at Buffalo and made the Sweet 16. That is a feat. Comes to Alabama in his first season, wasn't allowed to have postseason play because, COVID-19 and whatever else. But then in his first chance at postseason play, he goes and wins the SEC tournament, gets his team to the Sweet 16. And, was, an overtime away from getting to the Elite Eight. And then who knows what? I mean, the team they lost to made the Final Four and had to go to overtime to lose that game. So, for as much hate as Nate Oates has gotten these last couple of weeks, it's really frustrating because this dude has a top 10 class at the moment, has gotten huge transfers like Noah Gurley, a big last year as well. And I think he's only going to continue to grow this program more. It's an NBA system. Kids want to play in that nowadays. Yeah. It's fun.
Hey, look, I think he's the best coach Alabama's had. And, of course, Wimp had a ton of success, too, back in the 80s and early 90s. That was kind of before our time, right? I mean, we read about it. But as far as coaching goes, be a believer in Nate Oates. All day long. He's as good as Alabama's going to get. He's as good as there is in the country.
All day
long. And it is crazy to think that with all the football that goes into this state of Alabama, right, between Alabama and Auburn and everything that we've seen, all the championships between the two schools, all the big Iron Bowls, that basketball right now in this state is just about as good. I mean,
incredible.
really, and really, you want to be honest about it. Auburn's number 1 in basketball, and Alabama should be ranked. I mean, they've beaten 3 of the top teams in the country, right? Really 5, but 3 teams that were in the Final Four. The biggest game in the country, I think, is going to be tomorrow when Alabama plays against Auburn. And it's just crazy to think that with all the football we play, you're talking about 2 of the best coaches. You're talking about 2 of the best programs right now.
It's just insane. And, facilities wise, even Auburn has built their own little palace over there with Auburn Arena. But I mean, the fact that Nate Oates is able to get anybody to come play at Coleman Coliseum. I mean, it's a warehouse with seats in it. It's a terrible arena.
I know.
And the fact that, the money and everything else, and Greg Byrne, give the guy so much credit. He's come in and really, put a focus on these other sports, the Crimson Standard and everything else. But I mean, it's just a whole different level. And these schools are now competing at the same level as football nearly. It is really inspiring. I think baseball is on the way too. I know, any other words than football, even basketball, frustrates our users here a little bit. But, we'll see with the baseballs and the gymnastics and softball and everything else. Alabama is winning at every level right now. I know it was a tough start to 2022 with the national title, and of course basketball having this tough stretch here, but I think things are turning around. Got to win over Baylor. And, some really big games to come here. So we'll see what happens.
Don't forget about your women's team. Another loss to Missouri. So,
really?
Yeah. So they're 11-9 right now. Yeah. Look, but that's the excuse that you could make because you're right. The arena sucks. I mean, it's just terrible. They need to bulldoze it and build a new one. It's great for gymnastics. It's not good enough for basketball. You could have a women's program that never wins and say, hey, it's the arena. You could have a big excuse there. But I'll tell you what, when Nate Oates walks out on that floor and when you see the enthusiasm that those kids brought to the game on Saturday, and the student section was as good as I can ever remember it. So it's exciting, and I got to give the guy a lot of credit. The biggest games in the country right now are in Alabama for basketball.
I mean, he's getting primetime matchups for Alabama basketball. That is something that we wouldn't have seen a few years ago. And, you just look at even the Big 12 SEC matchups since he's been here. It started out with Kansas State, and now he's getting to play Baylor, the best team in the conference. So, quite the turnaround in such a short time. I think ultimately that's what, gets me the most frustrated is how quickly he did this. I mean, Alabama could still be rebuilding, but he's winning. And that, that speaks volumes about the kind of coach he is.
Awesome, man. Well, look, we went a little bit over time, but you're in the home studio, so we might as well have, just kept chatting. Anything else that I didn't bring up that you want to talk about before we bid everyone farewell tonight?
Guys, just thanks for the support. I mean, this is kind of the time of the year, where things slow down a little bit. It's still easy to cover Alabama football with transfers and recruiting and everything else going on. But, there's no football right now. And we can't thank you guys enough for getting in the comments, checking out the forums. Had a nice basketball conversation with somebody the other day on there too. So looking forward to more of those. And, just keep supporting the channel. It's going to be a really fun week. Excited to be down here at the coast. I need to get down to LA a little bit more, I think.
Yeah, look, I might slide over after all the activities take place and, and maybe hit some of the establishments sometime this week. I mean,
go hit the wharf.
Hey, look, there's going to be so many things going on this week in Mobile. The epicenter of football is right down here. And Chris and Trey will be covering that. And we'll have all of anything that's going on, breaking news and all of that stuff right here on the Bama Insider YouTube channel. Andrew Bone will talk recruiting. Alabama with their first commitment for 2023, right?
Yep. Turning the page now. It took a while, everybody. I know, some people were getting impatient out there, but Alabama is now finally getting into this 2023 class. And excited to break that down tomorrow as well. A 4-star DB, Eric Washington. Mm-hmm. And some others really close too.
Really?
Danny Lewis, these kind of kids, I think are right on the doorstep there too. So.
Yep. So Andrew Bone will be helping us out with that. We'll have Kyle Henderson that'll be popping on and doing stuff. And most importantly, guys, we appreciate you being here. But we're going to pop on all week long and tell you what's going on with the Senior Bowl and keep you updated. And, of course, the game is on Saturday. Special thanks to Chris Daltrey, who's a legend in L.A., for producing our show tonight. Trey, Yanity, I'm Mick Gillispie. Thanks for hanging out with us, guys. Like and subscribe. Give us a thumbs up. Alabama, Auburn, and basketball tomorrow is going to be a big game. We'll be covering that as well. You can hear what Nate Oates and company have to say as soon as that game's over. Thanks for watching. Roll Tide.